Welcome to the Black and Green podcast. It's your go-to place to find the latest high-quality, all-natural products created by Black artisans. Hosted by yours truly, Dr. Kristen H., the founder of Black and Green. We'll discuss all things health, wellness, self-care, and of course, self-love. This podcast features a refreshing lineup of guests, from entrepreneurs and artisans to holistic lifestylists and clean beauty experts, and a plethora of other innovators within the wellness industry. Join me as we learn from the best of the best. All right, guys, I'm so excited to introduce you to the speaker, Elizabeth, today. I met her trying to work on something that she helped me find a solution for. So I'm so excited to have her talk to us about the business that she's created. We have Elizabeth from Ìpàdé.
Hi, not welcome. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can you tell us more about Ìpàdé? Basically, the way I found you is I was trying to do some working. And so I was trying to do some co-working, and I was trying to find a Black-owned co-working space. So I was Googling really, really hard, trying to find one. And then I found you at the very last minute, the night before I needed it.
Right.
And you emailed me back very promptly. So kind of explain to me about Ìpàdé and why it exists and how it exists and all that good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. Ìpàdé is DC's first co-working space specifically designed for Black women, trans folks, and non-binary individuals, as well as people of color. And we provide co-working space via memberships and day passes, along with a supportive community and event space where you can host workshops or retreats and get things done. So it's a productivity space just for women of color. And I created it because I didn't see any space like that in DC. You know, there's so many people of color here, professional people, creatives, folks who are innovating and doing great things for their communities. And yet we didn't have a space that we could call our own. I will say Ìpàdé kind of started the long story starts in 2013 when I founded as a young professional in DC, I founded a networking initiative for Black progressive women. Again, something that I hadn't seen. And I was trying to build a community around that, create something that I wanted to exist for me. And I saw that others also wanted to exist. So that lasted for about a year. Then I moved on to some Black maternal health advocacy work that I was heavily involved in, and circled back in 2018, 2019 to these questions of, what spaces actually exist for Black women and women of color to get stuff done, to find mentoring, to build connections, especially in the DC area. So decided to create Ìpàdé.
Oh, this is awesome. What gave you the courage for open a brick and mortar? A lot of times when people want to create something that is new or has not been done, they're scared to take that leap of like signing a lease. And so kind of what gave you the power to do that?
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely, a risk, a financial risk and undertaking, but it's also a major opportunity to do something wonderful in the world. And it's so funny. The story is, late 2019, early 2020, I was actually looking at spaces, going to see different offices and commercial spaces where Ìpàdé could exist. And then the pandemic hit. And, the future was so uncertain at that time. And it took me about 2 weeks to say, sitting at home, wondering, oh God, what am I going to do? And, after 2 weeks, I was like, okay, well, I can do some of the things I wanted to do in Ìpàdé. I can do those things virtually, build community, provide programming that's responsive to what Black women and femmes of color are saying that they want. And so we did that for about a year and a half with virtual programming across the spectrum of life, personal well-being workshops, business workshops, networking events, virtual co-working. So it ran the spectrum of things that people like to engage in and ways to create community in a virtual environment. So we did that for a year and a half. And then in June 2021, we held our first in-person co-working pop-up, after the vaccines became available, after things had kind of settled down a bit, we were able to come together in person, and people really enjoyed that first event. They made connections. They got to tell people about their own businesses that they were running, build partnerships. There are folks that are friends and working together from that first event. So that really, seeing what happened there, and it's hard to describe the kind of magic that happens when people share physical space.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah. So seeing what happened on that first event, kept me motivated to make our brick and mortar become a reality. And
that's interesting, because you kind of went the different direction of the rest of the world. So right when the pandemic hit and the rest of the world was pulling everything in stores, on virtually, turning away from brick and mortar spaces because of the dropping of people being able to go out in public. So you kind of standing going like, no, I understand the energy that's created when people are together and still deciding to go down a brick and mortar path when the rest of the world is kind of shutting down brick and mortar. It's kind of like that kind of being caught in that the in-between space. I think was very interesting that you made the different choice and the rest of the world was doing.
Yeah, I did. And it takes courage to do that. Absolutely. But I absolutely saw a need for that. People were really looking for a connection. They were also at that point, after a year and a half, tired of being in the house.
Yes, they were.
And wanting to get back to life or some semblance of it. Like, we'll never go back to that time before, right? Things have changed forever, but we can find safe ways to gather in person again, and share that space and connect face to face with each other. Zoom is great, but again, there's this energy exchange that happens when you can see someone and y'all are in the same space and you have the opportunity to actually get to know other people. I have a great example that I want to share about that.
Yeah.
So I was in a business development program for about 9 months. And for 8 of those months, we were virtual on Zoom every week, emailing in a WhatsApp group, so we were connected. We were using technology to stay connected. And we had a week-long fellowship in DC, an opportunity to actually be in person, to stay in the same house together and work on our pitch decks. And the way that we connected and got to know each other in that 1 week as compared to the 8 months of virtual was completely different. People, we did not really know each other after spending that much time on Zoom and on WhatsApp. And, just being in a house, being around each other was super helpful, super generative. And there was just a dynamic that you couldn't get. So that's why I was committed to Ìpàdé, even though, stats and what I saw around me told me that, it would be difficult to get people together in person.
Yes.
But I was like, this is too important to let go.
Yes, I love it when Black women often look the stats in the face and say, well, watch me. But watch me. I know we need this space. I don't care what the numbers say. Just watch me work. I know we need it. My tribe will support me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's just so beautiful that way it works. Now, tell me about the name, Ìpàdé. Where did that come from? What does that mean? Tell me the history of it.
Yes. Ìpàdé is a West African Yoruba word that means meeting or gathering. And it comes from a larger term for me, Ìpàdé, which means women's meeting, a women's gathering. You could think of it as like a sister circle.
That's so beautiful.
Yes. I really wanted, I love languages, and I know a few other languages, and I wanted
Okay, I know a few other languages. Okay,
by a few, I mean two other. But I like to try to experiment and learn new words, and because I love to travel, and so when you travel, it helps to also, know words from a different language and be able to communicate with people that way. So,
yes.
I wanted Ìpàdé to really reflect my African heritage and the heritage of the African diaspora, with it being a place that centers Black women as well as people of color. And so I asked my friends who, have another second language or third language. It's like, what's a word, what are some terms for like a women's gathering or a women's meeting space? And I got a few answers back, and Ìpàdé was the one that stuck out, the Yoruba language. So here we have Ìpàdé now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Now I'm going to ask a question about DC used to be Chocolate City, but it's not Chocolate City anymore. As it's changing and gentrifying, how is that changing your path of kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, it was important for me to kind of stake a claim, take up space in the center, the very center of a city that is rapidly changing. We're located in DuPont Circle, about 2 blocks from the metro. And it's not an area that is, known for being a Black dominant area. And like you said, DC is becoming,
trying to find the right word. I hear you.
I'm like, it's Black people are being pushed out of DC. Yes. People of color are being kept out of DC.
Myself included. I was in DC and I got pushed on out to Upper Marlboro.
Oh my gosh. It's so terrible. It's so terrible. So it was important to me to take up space in an area that we have a right to. We have a right to take up space in DC. We have a right to be here. And it was also important to me to have it be as accessible to people as possible.
Yes, yes.
And so, thinking about the DMV, the area that we're in being so expansive, folks live in Virginia, folks live in Maryland. But for me, DC is that meeting place, that middle place where people in DC could access it, people in Maryland can come in, people in Virginia can come in and have a shared space in a city and be present.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny that you said that, because I was just trying to think of a place for one of my team members is in Richmond. And of course, I'm in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So I'm trying to find a place for us to meet up. And
super cool. Y'all could be here, definitely.
It's so funny how it's meeting a need without it's meeting this unspoken need that we have, that we're looking for a place to collect. We're looking for a place to gather. And so it's so beautiful to create a space where we can do that comfortably.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad that, you had that example, because that's really what it's about. It's a space for, folks to come together, for teams to meet, to host retreats. So if y'all wanted to do, some planning, we're here for you to do that. If you wanted to host an event, you could do that here.
I love it. I love it. The idea of the space being able to be used in so many ways. Mm-hmm. It can be a co-working space. It can be a meeting space. It can be what I was using it for was co-working mixed in with a video space. So I was working on building my course together. I recorded things there. So I'm going to tell you a bit of that background story. So I was working with my videographer and we were trying to come up with a place for me to work and them to record. And they're like, we can just go to a coffee shop down the street. I was like, no, that's not consistent with what Black and Green is. I said, I want to find a Black-owned, women-owned space that co-works. I don't know it, but I'm going to look really hard to see if I can find one. And what time of night did I email you guys when I found your space?
It was like 11:45. I saw it the next morning. And I was like, I have to get you on the phone. We need to talk. Absolutely, definitely come through. So how did you, I didn't get to ask you in person, how did you find us? You did a Google search and what popped up?
I did a Google search and until I think I went to like page 3. The circle I'm talking with is that I'm historically a first page Google person, and they try to give me some insight. Like at the end of the day, Google comes down to SEO. Oftentimes, Black-owned brands can't afford SEO. So we tend to be on the second and third pages. If you don't go, or fourth or fifth or sixth. So if you don't go and keep digging, you might not ever find it. So I found you on this third page.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. So I do have some SEO in the back, and it's good to know. Another thing, I was running a Google ad, which it became a little bit expensive because Google ads, as compared to Facebook and Instagram, you get a lot less return for the money you spend. And so I had taken the Google ad down. And that's probably why I was on the third page, because I was like, okay, this is becoming costly. I'm not getting a lot of response from the Google ad. I'm going to focus on social ads because that's where I get responses from.
Right. And the thing that's beautiful for me is that word of mouth. I feel like the most useful, or what has been the most helpful for me, is someone using Black and green products and telling their friend or family members, I love what I get from there. That has been the most successful way that we have grown. It's over Google ads, over Facebook ads, over Instagram ads, over any kind of ad. It comes down to that word of mouth.
Definitely. It definitely does. And one of the things I'm going through now is just being a new business and building that brand awareness. So I definitely tried to do that when I was doing the virtual events, but it didn't resonate with people in the same way because they couldn't see or experience what I was trying to build. Yes. And now that I have the space up, it's open, we're running, hosting events, having people come into the space. People can see what it's about. They can feel it. So that's one thing people say to me when they walk in is like, I saw the pictures, but it's more than that. It feels good when I walk in here.
That's beautiful.
And so now people are able to experience that and then go tell their friends, tell their networks about it. Like, hey, come meet me here. You should come here. You should try it out. Feel it for yourself. And so I'm giving the business and myself grace to take that time to get there, where word of mouth has, just kind of spiraled and grown. I have a notepad that I, found while I was out shopping, and it says, allow yourself time to grow. And so I keep that in front of me. That's the one I'm using right now, understanding that it's going to take time. It's going to take time for me to get up to page 1 of the Google search, but, I will get there.
Now we will pause for a moment of meditation with Dr. Crystal Jones.
So wherever you are right now, just take a moment to be. Be in your awareness. Be in your truth. Be in your wholeness. Allow yourself to show up as light, dark, and every shade of gray in between. Feeling your presence, experiencing your truth. Finding your breath. And instead of directing her, listen to her. Ask her where she wants to spend more time, and spend more time there. Ask her where she's stuck, and go into the experience of why. Be in this breath, be in this movement, and continue to cultivate this experience through the rest of your day. Honoring that your truth and whatever you show up as is always enough. You are perfection and excellence personified. Anything that tells you that you're anything else no longer serves you.
So I think that the most important thing is patience. When you're starting a business, it's not going to just go overnight, especially if you don't have millions of dollars. It's going to take time for it to grow. And so having patience to allow for that process to help build and develop your brand to what it's supposed to be, I think can often be hard if you wanted it to happen fast.
Oh, that is so important. So important. Because if you remember, a few minutes ago, I shared how I had this idea. I started thinking about it in 2018.
Yep.
And actually, so I was kind of resistant to it in 2018, to the idea, because I was doing a lot of other things at the time. And 2019, it kept, niggling at me. And in 2020, 2021, throughout the pandemic, I held on to that, right? I shared on another interview that I did that I had to be persistent through that time. I had to be patient through that time. I had to overcome so many challenges and setbacks and moments where the future did not look bright. The future was very uncertain. Again, a global pandemic, businesses closing down right and left, trying to build a physical in-person business when we were not sure that would ever happen again.
Yes.
So, it did take persistence, but also took a lot of patience, like you said, and that grace to, again, allow yourself time, allow your business time to grow, to get out there, and to become this big vision that we all have for our dreams. I know a lot of Black women and entrepreneurs have these big dreams, have big, bold ideas, things that, again, they want to see, they want to create. And it will happen. It will happen. It just might take a little longer than expected.
Exactly so much. What has been the biggest lesson you have learned?
Oh, the biggest lesson. I would say it is a combination of keep going and trust yourself. That keep going is, I absolutely kept going because I knew this would work. I knew my vision and what I wanted was worth the effort. It was worth trying to make it happen no matter what, no matter how many people said no, how many people closed the door, how many people did not give me funding, did not accept me into programs. I knew that it needed to happen. And other people also, there were people that said yes. And so making every yes more important than those no's you get along the way. Everyone gets no's. I'm sure you've heard no at some point. But said, you said yes to yourself. Mm-hmm. You said yes to Black and Green. I said yes to Ìpàdé. Mm-hmm. And that's what it takes. Say yes to yourself, trust yourself, and keep going.
It can be such a challenge, but it really is just having the grit in some ways to push through despite the no's. Because you have a dream, because you have a vision, and you want to make that vision happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to leave with us, a thought that you want to just make sure my listeners walk away with?
Like I said, so there were a few things, and I'll just summarize for them. Allow yourself time to grow, say yes to yourself, and keep going no matter what.
Yes, keep going no matter what. I think that's a really beautiful way to end it, that in life, in business and entrepreneurship, keep going no matter what. You will hear no, you will make mistakes, you will feel defeated, but keep going if you believe in what you're trying to create.
I love it. I love it so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into the Black and Green podcast. Did you have more questions for our special guest? Please leave your questions in the comment section. Also, check us out at blkgrn.com. Please subscribe and comment. We love hearing from you. Until next time, buy Black and live green.